teacher was leading her students to visit the enclosure of the four-eyed hyenas when she noticed snoring coming from the far end. She lost count of how many times the useless Xiaoming dared to sleep during her class. Angrily, she stormed over, ready to punish the boy. Startled awake, Xiaoming instinctively prepared to punch his opponent but quickly realized something was off. The Jiuling fire bird beast had disappeared without a trace. Meanwhile, he had been reincarnated. A chilling smile with a deadly glint appeared at the corner of his lips. The two traitors who would betray him in the future should brace themselves for ruthless vengeance. 300 years before, at the Scorching Flames Tower, the dwelling of the phoenix beast Jiuling fire bird, Xiaoming and his two teammates successfully defeated it. Just as they were about to celebrate their victory, a second later, Xiaoming was literally stabbed in the back by his so-called comrades. Years of fighting shoulder to shoulder could not diminish human envy. Because he was too strong, they felt the need to eliminate him to feel secure, even after being stabbed. Xiaoming was barely clinging to life. The two despicable traitors charged at him again, determined to destroy both his body and soul. At that exact critical moment, the phoenix beast Jiuling fire bird suddenly revived. It prepared to explode, taking Xiaoming, along with his immense hatred, with it. If there was a next life, he would ensure they regretted it. His soul, a glowing red speck, shot out at the speed of light. Fast forward to the present. At the Martial Arts Academy in Dahai City, teacher Lu Hei-si of Class 3 was giving a lecture. Since the appearance of the exotic beasts 400 years ago had forced humanity to develop martial arts for survival. Today she would let her students witness their sworn enemy. This was one of the lowest ranking and most repulsive exotic beasts, the hyena. True to its name, this exotic beast had an eccentric temperament and an innate desire to antagonize humans. Seizing the opportunity, Lu Hei-si quizzed the students on the weaknesses of low-level exotic beasts. However, with thousands of species covered in the introductory exotic beast curriculum, nobody could remember all of them. Just then, a snoring sound came from a nearby bush. Xiaoming was sitting there, eyes closed, embodying the image of a tranquil, handsome man, though the illusion was broken by the sound coming from the painting. Xiaoming, you dared to sleep during my lesson? Do you have a death wish? Lu Hei-si roared like a lioness, successfully waking him up. Xiaoming instantly assumed a combat stance. Li Wang, Long Quan, how dare you? He blurted, then suddenly froze, realizing something wasn't right. Wasn't his soul already separated from his body? Memories surged back like a flood. And Xiaoming finally grasped the situation. He had been resurrected. This meant the heavens had given him another chance. And this time, Li Wang and Long Quan would have to face his vengeance. Vengeance? What are you even talking about? Have you been reading too many novels? Lu Hei-si interrupted his daydreaming with a solid kick to the face. Sleeping in class was one thing, but zoning out after being caught? That was unforgivable. Lu Hei-si, famously known as the Eastern Lianis, at school, had her reputation for being strict reinforced once again when Xiaoming dared to nap during her class. His classmates felt he deserved the punishment, and even found it amusing when the teacher reprimanded him. In their eyes, Xiaoming was nothing but a useless slacker, lacking the vigor to become a martial artist. Rubbing his face, Xiaoming stood up, and only then did his memories sink. The original owner of this body was an average student at the Martial Arts Academy. For someone like him, who had once defeated even the mighty Jiuling fire bird beast, to start over with the basics of low-level exotic beasts felt both ironic and bittersweet. At this moment, the class monitor, Qining, stood up to explain on Xiaoming's behalf. His family's circumstances aren't great. He has to work part-time jobs and doesn't get enough rest, which is why he dozed off. Why bother speaking up for a loser like him? In a month, he'll fail the midterm and get kicked out of school anyway, scoffed Cui Chang, a smug classmate. Teacher Lu silenced the class with a commanding tone. As long as he's still a student here, he'll continue to learn. Now, Xiaoming, tell me the weakness of hyenas. If you can't answer, prepare to copy the introductory exotic beast textbook 10 times. The class burst into whispers and giggles. None of them could remember the answer, so they assumed Xiaoming wouldn't know either. Qing, in concern, voiced her objection. The exotic beast textbook is so thick it's like a rock. Copying it 10 times would be torture. Lu Haixi shot her a stern look. Are you trying to take over as teacher? Qining? Embarrassed, she stopped arguing. Xiao Ming, however, remained unfazed. Back when he first became a martial artist, he had fought 18 hyenas at once to train. He could name their weaknesses with his eyes closed. Oh, listen to him brag. A student sneered, if he gets it right, I'll eat dirt right here. Even Teacher Lu gave him a challenging look, clearly prepared to tear him apart if he got it wrong. Calmly, Xiao Ming answered, to my knowledge, hyenas have 4 weaknesses. The class erupted in laughter. Ha! Hyenas only have 3 weaknesses. Did you make up the 4th one just now? Qining discreetly coughed, signaling for him to reconsider, but Xiao Ming was adamant. He knew there were 4 weaknesses, clearly. The person who wrote the textbook got it wrong. Cui Chang scoffed, claiming that Xiao Ming shouldn't spout nonsense if he hadn't studied. He pointed out that the textbook clearly stated that the weaknesses of hyenas were the throat, abdomen, and eyes. Furthermore, he accused Xiao Ming of not studying, sleeping in class, and even daring to question the curriculum. He even suggested that Teacher Lu send Xiao Ming home for a while. Xiao Ming, however, remained calm and replied casually. Relax, Teacher Lu hasn't said anything yet. At that moment, Lu Haixi's sharp voice cut through the classroom, commanding everyone to be silent. Cui Chang smirked, thinking the scolding was aimed at Xiao Ming, but to his shock, he was the one being reprimanded. Turning to Xiao Ming, Teacher Lu asked him to explain the 4th weakness of hyenas. She knew that even most experienced martial artists were unaware of it, so she wanted to see if he was bluffing or truly knowledgeable. It's simple, the 4th weakness is. Xiao Ming began, but before he could finish, the hyena in the enclosure bristled its fur. Immediately sensing that something was wrong, Xiao Ming reacted. As he had feared, within a second, the hyena broke free from its cage and charged toward the students. Chaos erupted as everyone scattered in panic. Cui Chang, pale with fear, hid behind Qining, leaving her exposed to the bloodthirsty beast. Lu Haixi rushed to intervene, but Xiao Ming was a step ahead. With precision and speed, he struck the hyena at its glabella, the space between its eyebrows, rendering it motionless and killing it instantly. After disposing of the creature, Xiao Ming calmly turned to address Teacher Lu's earlier question. The 4th weakness of hyenas is the glabella, he stated, his tone steady and unwavering, after being saved by Xiao Ming. Qining found herself thinking he wasn't so bad after all. His firm and warm chest made her secretly wish for more hyenas to attack just to stay close to him. However, Xiao Ming didn't notice her fluttering emotions. His attention was entirely focused on the defeated hyena. It was unusually weak. Unable to break through the iron cage, something about this seemed off. Suddenly, a red light emerged from the hyena's corpse and entered Xiao Ming's body. Before him, a notification appeared. Collected 1 Qi essence. This brought his total to 12 Qi essences. So, defeating exotic beasts granted him Qi essence. This system seemed perfectly tailored for him. Lu Haixi walked over to inspect the hyena's corpse. Noticing how Xiao Ming had broken its bones with just a finger, she couldn't help but feel astonished. Even she hadn't reached such a level of skill. Xiao Ming was clearly someone who had been hiding his true abilities all along. Teacher Lu announced to the class that the hyena had been dealt with. She also confirmed that its 4th weakness was indeed the glabella, just as Xiao Ming had stated. However, she explained that this was advanced material that they hadn't learned yet. Praising his outstanding performance, she awarded him additional points. The class broke into a buzz of chatter. Not only had Teacher Lu praised Xiao Ming, but she'd also given him bonus points. This was so unusual it felt like the sun had risen in the west. Big deal, a background character muttered. He probably just got lucky and overheard the 4th weakness somewhere. I could have done it too if I knew that. But everyone knew the truth. Even Cui Chang had hidden behind Qining earlier, and this guy wasn't even as strong as Cui Chang. In the end, only Xiao Ming had both the courage and the skill to handle the situation. Feeling humiliated, Cui Chang tried to save face. Who said I was scared? I was just scouting for the best position to attack. My family even raises these creatures to guard the house. I could take it down in one move. Summoning all his courage, Chui Chang stepped on the hyena's corpse for effect, boasting that he had 8 chi essence, 8 times more than Xiao Ming. He claimed that defeating a hyena was as easy as flipping his hand. The class rolled their eyes, clearly not buying his story. Still, boasting wasn't a crime. So they let him ramble on to his heart's content. Seeing that no one believed him, Chui Chang became indignant. Determined to prove his bravery, he mustered all his courage and shoved his head into the hyena's mouth, insisting he wasn't afraid. Qi Ning covered her eyes, unable to bear watching such a reckless act. Teacher Lu immediately tried to stop him, but Chui Chang stubbornly declared that he wasn't scared and that Xiao Ming was no match for him. Xiao Ming, with over 300 years of life experience, had no reason to feel offended. However, since Chui Chang was asking for trouble, he decided to teach him a lesson. With a flick of his finger, Xiao Ming sent a small pebble flying, knocking the hyena's jaw shut. Chui Chang, now stuck in the creature's mouth, flailed and cried for help. Lu Haixi sighed in exasperation, refusing to acknowledge him as her student in that moment. When Chui Chang was finally rescued, he gasped for air, oblivious to the fact that his pants were soaked, covering her mouth to suppress her laughter. Teacher Lu reminded him that the hyena had been long dead. She then sent him home early to shower and change. The class, thoroughly entertained, couldn't believe they had witnessed someone scared enough to wet themselves in front of a dead hyena. Xiao Ming chuckled, hoping that Chui Chang wouldn't develop a lifelong trauma from this incident. After school, Chui Chang cleaned up, dressed neatly, and bought a bouquet of flowers, waiting for Qi Ning to leave class. He was determined to salvage his dignity. When Qi Ning finally stepped out, looking as radiant as a goddess, Chui Chang eagerly approached her. He apologized for the hyena incident and presented her with the flowers as a peace offering. To make amends, he also invited her to Heroes Plaza for some pastries. Qi Ning hesitated, accepting his apology but politely declining the flowers and the invitation. "You can keep those," she said awkwardly. At that moment, Xiao Ming walked by, spotting him. Qi Ning quickly bid farewell to Chui Chang, leaving him standing there, realizing that as a side character, he only got 5 minutes to talk to the leading lady. Qi Ning caught up with Xiao Ming and, as a gesture of gratitude for his help earlier, invited him to Heroes Plaza for some pastries. However, Xiao Ming declined, citing his lack of free time. In truth, until he exacted his revenge, distractions like romance held no meaning for him. Seeing Qi Ning walking alongside Xiao Ming, Chui Chang's jealousy flared hotter than chili peppers. He swore not to let this go. At that moment, at Heroes Plaza, a crowd was gathered, laying flowers before the statues of Long Quan and Li Wang. People were singing praises, calling them saviors of humanity for defeating the Phoenix and securing peace for mankind. Over the past few years, the two had retreated to the holy capital for focused cultivation. Rarely appearing in public, hearing the crowd's adoration, Xiao Ming found the whole thing laughable. Traitors who betrayed their comrades and stole the credit had been turned into humanity's so-called heroes. One day, he would tear apart their false facade and reveal the truth. Then the world would know who the real hero was. Meanwhile, Chui Chang, along with 2 thugs, followed Xiao Ming into an alley, bringing with them 2 hyenas on leashes. Ready to strike, Xiao Ming, lamenting the lack of exotic beasts in the city to help him level up, welcomed this unexpected opportunity as 2 hyenas were conveniently delivered to him. Stepping out from the shadows, Chui Chang sneered, "Long time no see. Weren't you supposed to be enjoying pastries with Qi Ning? Why are you wandering around alone now?" 2 hyenas and 2 street thugs weren't much of a threat. Xiao Ming figured he could deal with them in a minute. The only issue was Chui Chang's stubborn insistence on picking a fight with him. "Deal with me? With a bunch of nobodies from the streets that you managed to gather?" Xiao Ming taunted. The gangsters, humiliated by his words, charged forward to display the might of their so-called hyena gang. Chui Chang stood on the sidelines, enjoying the show and unable to suppress his laughter. But as the saying goes, it's not over until it's over. With a single graceful movement, Xiao Ming darted through the air, swiftly knocking out all 4 attackers. Chui Chang and the hyena handler were left dumbfounded, exclaiming, "Unbelievable." Despite this, Chui Chang maintained his antagonistic stance, convinced the hyenas could rip Xiao Ming apart. "Release the hyenas now," Whatever happens, I'll take full responsibility," he barked, throwing everything into this final gamble. The two hyenas charged ferociously. Cui Chang had specifically chosen these well-trained beasts to deal with Xiao Ming, confident they would bring him to his knees. He even entertained the thought of granting him mercy if he begged for it. But to Xiao Ming, whether it was 400 years ago or now, hyenas were nothing more than weak scavengers. He didn't hesitate to engage them bare-handed. With a single decisive strike, both hyenas were dispatched instantly. Not only was Cui Chan left speechless, but even the gang leader was visibly shaken. These were his prized hyenas, carefully trained and fearsome, and yet they had met their end so quickly. Meanwhile, Xiao Ming felt elated as he absorbed 2 more units of chi essence. Who would have thought even in the city, exotic beasts would practically offer themselves up on a silver platter? At this point, Cui Chan was genuinely frightened and began to tiptoe away. However, Xiao Ming patted him on the shoulder, signaling that the game was over, and it was now his turn, with a casual kick aimed at Cui Chang's sensitive spot. He sent him flying into the air, writhing in excruciating pain. Next on the list was the leader of the hyena gang. Xiao Ming, still relatively weak, couldn't yet venture beyond the city to hunt monsters. He had been fretting about how to gather resources, only for the beasts to conveniently deliver themselves to his doorstep. Especially a gang like this that surely kept plenty of hyenas. "Hey, kid," the gang leader sneered. Trying to regain his composure, "the hyena gang is the biggest crew in the Western District. We've got all kinds of hyenas under our control. If you dare mess with me." Before he could finish, Xiao Ming delivered a swift slap. He demanded, "Take me to your gang's base. If you try anything funny, consider your head of hair a thing of the past." The gang leader, now intimidated, reluctantly led Xiao Ming to their base in the Western District. Behind a large, imposing door was the hyena gang's territory. Today, Xiao Ming planned to personally greet their boss and perhaps even inquire about any part-time monster hunting opportunities. Inside was an underground arena where various hyenas were being fought and trained. A burly man sat puffing on a cigarette. "Where the hell did Tam take those 2 hyenas?" he grumbled. One of the subordinates stepped forward to report on Cui Chang's blunder. Hearing that Tam had needed 2 hyenas just to deal with a mere student left the boss feeling embarrassed by the incompetence. At that moment, the door burst open with a loud bang as it was kicked off its hinges. Xiao Ming strode in confidently, looking around before speaking. "So, who here is the big boss of the hyena gang?" The subordinate recognized that the name Xiao Ming belonged to the person their Tam command had taken a group to deal with. The boss then asked Xiao Ming where his Tam was. Upon hearing this, you realized this man was the leader. However, it seemed the leader had misunderstood something. "You hadn't been captured but had come here willingly." The boss looked puzzled, and Xiao Ming explained that he was there to help eliminate a hidden threat. According to what he knew, the city prohibited unauthorized animal fights. Xiao Ming offered to help the boss get rid of the pack of hyenas, thereby eliminating the risk of getting caught. Sure enough, Xiao Ming's words made the group laugh. "The leader thought you were impressive but turned out to be delusional, so he ordered his men to deal with you." The gang charged forward, swinging sticks at Xiao Ming. The leader turned his back and sighed. Where did this fool come from? Such a waste of time. Suddenly, his men flew over his head, prompting him to turn back to see what had happened. Xiao Ming, barehanded, fought off the group while maintaining his composure. He had come to help but was being repaid with hostility. The remaining men hesitated, fearing they'd be sent flying like the others. The leader smirked, acknowledging their skill, and ordered them to release the hyenas. 2 were released from their cage. Xiao Ming felt satisfied but thought, "Only 2? Not even enough for a snack. Whoa, that's incredible. 1-hit KO." The surrounding onlookers marveled. However, some expressed concern, warning that killing the hyenas belonging to Kaida might earn you his wrath. Unexpectedly, Kaida became even more excited, ordering all the hyenas to be released to see how many Xiao Ming could take down. Facing an entire pack of hyenas, Xiao Ming thought, "Now this is getting interesting." In just 1 minute, Xiao Ming showcased his mastery of the staff, breaking the bones of the hyenas with precision and power. 10 minutes later, he ditched the staff altogether for hand-to-hand combat. Dispatching a few more, after 30 minutes, he had become the nightmare of the Hyenas, none dared approach him. Kaida stood slack-jawed. In half an hour, Xiao Ming had taken down 86 of his prized hyenas. His energy surged as if his blood was boiling, making Xiao Ming feel utterly exhilarated. Signaling to Kaida, he beckoned for more hyenas to be released. Enraged, Kaida shouted, "You brat! Don't get cocky! Even without the hyenas, I can still take you down, men! Get him!" But silence hung in the air. His subordinates had vanished long ago, fleeing when they realized they couldn't even handle one hyena, let alone Xiao Ming. Furious, Kaida cursed, "Damn it! I feed these idiots every day, and when I need them, they're nowhere to be found." Xiao Ming suddenly appeared behind Kaida, startling him. He jumped back 3 meters, stammering, "You. What do you want?" Xiao Ming calmly replied that he just wanted to know where the hyenas had come from. If there were hyenas, there must also be other exotic beasts. Perfect for his training and energy boost, dream on. Kaida roared, "Those hyenas are the lifeblood of the hyena gang. Even if you kill me, I'll never tell you where they came from." Xiao Ming smirked. "If that's your wish, I'll gladly grant it." With that, he moved to make Kaida regret his stubbornness. After a thorough beating that left his face swollen like a rice cracker, Kaida finally revealed the source of the hyenas. The Heavenly Feast Arena located in the southern part of the city. He mentioned that hyenas were the cheapest creatures available there. Xiao Ming recognized the name immediately. It was the very arena he had once frequented to hone his martial arts skills, where he had set the record for the longest winning streak. According to Kaida, the arena would reopen this weekend, but he had no idea who the owner was, only that they were someone with a fearsome reputation. Xiao Ming nodded and told him they would meet this weekend to visit the arena together. Kaida protested, explaining that the arena was exclusive to members, and he was just a small fry. Xiao Ming smirked and asked him whether he had a decade-old scar on his chest caused by the whirlwind breath technique of the Ice Eagle gang. When Kaida hesitated but eventually nodded, Xiao Ming offered to heal him. Furthermore, since Kaida was a significant figure in the city, having him under control would be incredibly advantageous. Xiao Ming ordered him to prepare rare materials and a clean room, which made Kaida skeptical. The materials he mentioned were items only alchemists knew how to utilize. Prized individuals even rarer than martial artists, alchemists were the cherished allies of powerful factions, capable of creating elixirs that granted users strength comparable to martial artists. If Xiao Ming were truly an alchemist, he would have been recruited into an elite guild long ago. Why was he still attending school? "I'm giving you 5 minutes, any later, and I'm leaving," Xiao Ming commanded, ignoring Kaida's doubts, fearing the possibility of missing out on such an opportunity. Kaida quickly obeyed. If Xiao Ming truly was an alchemist, this would be a game-changing moment for him, providing the backing he needed to rule the city unchallenged. Once everything was prepared, Xiao Ming inspected the materials. In his previous life, after reaching the pinnacle of martial arts, he had rarely dabbled in alchemy. He could only hope his skills hadn't rusted. Using the intermolecular thunder reaction formula, he began mixing the ingredients, a process so complex that even seasoned chemistry professors couldn't balance its equations. This formula was a feat only an alchemist could achieve. Kaida, watching nervously, felt an immense wave of relief and excitement. To his astonishment, Xiao Ming flawlessly completed the process, condensing the mixture into a clear, shimmering liquid resting in his palm. This was no ordinary concoction. It was proof of mastery. Kaida, still doubtful, stared at the clear liquid that looked just like water. This can heal a 10-year-old injury in my chest?" he asked. "Exactly," Xiao Ming replied nonchalantly, stretching as if this were no big deal. "It's been a while since I last concocted something, so I could only manage to make a Type 3 recovery potion." A Type 3 recovery potion was rare and sold for at least 1,000 gold coins on the market. The fact that Xiao Ming had created it so effortlessly left Kaida in awe. "Open your mouth," Xiao Ming ordered, tossing the potion straight into his mouth. Moments later, Kaida felt a surge of energy coursing through his body. Touching his chest in disbelief, he let out a jubilant shout. "It's healed! My wound is completely healed!" Overwhelmed with gratitude, Kaida dropped to his knees and began calling Xiao Ming Master, vowing to follow him no matter what, Even if it meant braving mountains or oceans, Xiao Ming waved him off, unimpressed by the dramatic display. You're overreacting. Just take me to the Heavenly Feast Arena this weekend, and we'll call it even. Fearing that Xiao Ming might leave, Kaida stuck to him like glue. Master, where are you headed now? Let me take you there. Meanwhile, on a bustling pedestrian street, a young girl named Xiao Yu was selling grilled bamboo rats. An elderly man beside her asked, Has your brother finished school? Why isn't he back yet? A customer smirked as he handed over some coins. I heard that Xiao Ming only has a combat score of 10. He'll never become a martial artist. Poor Xiao Yu, working so hard selling these dirty skewers just to fund his useless education. Angered, Xiao Yu snatched the skewer back. If you're buying, just buy. Why do you have to say so much? Before the situation could escalate, a thug with spiked hair barged in, shoving others aside. Move! Xiao Yu, where's the stall's protection fee for this month? Her face turned pale. But I already paid at the start of the month. Why are you collecting again now? In the middle of the month? She stammered, clutching her money pouch. The thug sneered. From now on, you pay 3 times a month. I used to go easy on you because your brother was still in school, but now he's just a useless freeloader, so no more discounts. Xiao Yu didn't have enough money and pleaded for a few days' extension. However, it became clear that the thug wasn't after her money but her body. Furious, the elderly man beside her stood up. If she doesn't have enough, I'll lend her the money, he said firmly. The thug responded with a cruel laugh. Then kicked the old man, sending him sprawling to the ground. The crowd murmured angrily but didn't intervene. These thugs were part of the notorious Ergo gang, backed by the powerful hyena gang from the west. Nobody dared oppose them. Turning back to Xiao Yu, the thug smirked. Come with me, you'll have good food, nice clothes, and won't have to sell these dirty skewers anymore. Xiao Yu firmly refused, but the thug wasn't giving her a choice. Just as he reached for her, a skewer came flying out of nowhere, piercing clean through his palm. Arg! The thug screamed in pain, clutching his hand. He shouted for his men to pull the skewer out, but it was lodged so deeply that any attempt to remove it only caused more agony. All eyes turned toward Xiao Ming, who had arrived just in time. Holding a few skewers in his hand, he smirked. Well, I guess buying these wasn't a waste after all. The crowd began whispering in surprise. Wasn't this the same Xiao Ming who couldn't even carry a water bucket before? How had he grown so strong? Xiao Yu rushed to him, her expression mixed with relief and astonishment. But before she could thank him, Xiao Ming waved her off dramatically. No need to thank me. These guys dared to bully my little sister. They had it coming. Xiao Yu, however, wasn't planning on thanking him. Instead, she grabbed him by the shoulders and began inspecting him from head to toe. Not bad, she muttered. Looks like my efforts selling those skewers to pay for your education weren't in vain. Embarrassed, Xiao Ming cleared his throat. The truth was, he still wasn't officially a martial artist. The Ergo gang leader, still clutching his wounded hand, spat out angrily. Not even a real martial artist, and you think you can act tough? After half an hour of struggling, the thug finally managed to pull out the skewer. Holding his wounded hand, his eyes filled with malice, he snarled, You two siblings are going to learn a painful lesson today. Xiao Yu grabbed Xiao Ming's arm, urging him to run, but the thug motioned for 2 of his burly underlings to block their escape. Kid, you think you're tough? The thug sneered, pulling out a dagger. Let's see how smug you are after I poke a few holes in you. Frightened, Xiao Yu stepped in front of Xiao Ming, shielding him. If you leave my brother alone, I'll go with you, she pleaded. The thug grinned wickedly. Oh, I've got better plans. First, I'll let your brother watch as I have my fun with you. Then, I'll make you watch as I beat him to death. Just imagining it is making my day. Before he could say another word, a thunderous punch from Xiao Ming sent him flying 8 meters across the street, landing with a crash. Messing with my sister means messing with me, Xiao Ming growled. Shaking off his fist, Xiao Yu stood frozen in shock. How are you so strong? She stammered. You're not even a martial artist yet. Xiao Ming smiled faintly. I'm close, he said, patting her head gently. You've endured enough hardships. From now on, I'll protect you. The thug staggered to his feet, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. Damn it! You dare mess up my handsome face? Get him! He roared at his two henchmen. The two burly men, gym-hardened and muscle-bound, stepped forward, flexing their muscles like they were on a competition stage. Think you can handle us, kid? One sneered. Xiaoming raised an eyebrow and smirked. Let's see if all that muscle is just for show. With a single, fluid motion, he dispatched both men with one powerful strike each, leaving them crumpled on the ground. Guess those durians you call muscles weren't as tough as you thought, he remarked mockingly, dusting off his hands. Xiaoming cracked his knuckles, his expression cold as he prepared to deal with the flashy thug standing before him. Despite his swollen face, the thug remained defiant. Don't you dare act cocky, kid. I've got the strongest gang in the West, the Hyena Gang, backing me up. You lay a hand on me, and Kaida won't let you live to see tomorrow. Xiao Yu tugged on Xiaoming's sleeve, her voice trembling as she begged him not to provoke the Hyena Gang. The onlookers murmured in agreement. No one wanted to cross such a dangerous group, rumored to have hundreds of trained hyenas guarding their base. Xiaoming didn't respond to the warning, instead calmly asking the thug, "So, your boss is Kaida?" The thug sneered, misinterpreting Xiaoming's question as a sign of fear. That's right. Regretting your actions now? Too late, little punk, he mocked, pointing a finger at Xiaoming. At that moment, a figure burst through the crowd, holding a heap of bags filled with food. Boss Xiaoming, Kaida called out enthusiastically, panting slightly from running. I bought the best food on the street for you. His fawning demeanor resembled a father returning home to pamper his children. The flashy thug, now revealed as Chen Ergo, froze in confusion. Kaida? He muttered, his mind racing to make sense of the scene. The onlookers whispered among themselves, recognizing Kaida by the distinctive scar across his face and his trademark stern gaze. Yet here he was, bowing and scraping before Xiaoming. Sensing the tense atmosphere, Kaida glanced at Xiaoming, puzzled. What's going on here, boss? Oh, nothing much, Xiaoming said nonchalantly. Just some punk trying to bully my little sister. I was about to send him on a one-way trip to the afterlife. Kaida's eyes widened in shock. What? Someone dared to bully the sister of my boss. He rolled up his sleeves, seething with rage. Boss, let me handle this. I'll make him regret ever being born. Xiaoming smiled faintly. Interesting, that guy claims you're backing him up. Kaida froze mid-step, his anger turning to panic. Cold sweat dripped down his face as he scurried back to Xiaoming. Boss, please don't believe him. I would never do such a thing. At that moment, Chen Ergo stumbled forward, attempting to save face. It's a misunderstanding, boss, he cried out, dropping to his knees before Kaida. Don't you remember me? Last winter, I gifted you that mink scarf. For years, I've been loyally managing Starfall Street for you, helping wherever I could. Please, boss, have mercy and give me another chance. While groveling, Chen Ergo silently plotted his revenge. He thought giving up the current situation was a small price to pay. Later, he'd squeeze the locals harder to recover his losses. But when Chen Ergo smugly suggested doubling the protection fees, the crowd erupted in murmurs of discontent. Paying double meant they'd never escape the debt. They turned hopeful eyes toward Xiaoming, sensing his close relationship with Kaida. Confident he had secured his position, Chen Ergo smiled obsequiously. Boss, don't you think I did well? Idiot! Kaida roared, slapping him hard across the face. Do you know what you're saying? Doubling the fees would ruin me. Boss Xiaoming is my benefactor. If you upset him, there won't be a hyena gang left to save you. After venting his anger, Kaida turned to the gathered crowd, his tone softening. I apologize for my poor management that caused trouble for everyone. To make amends, I declare that from today onward, Starfall Street will no longer have to pay any protection fees. The announcement stunned the crowd. No more fees? Finally, I can save up for a wedding! Someone shouted joyfully. The street erupted in cheers, the relief palpable. The locals knew this change was thanks to Xiaoming. Their previous impression of him, a powerless boy, was thoroughly shattered. Now, Xiaoming was their hero. In their eyes, he was not just the best, he was the undisputed number one. Xiao Yu felt incredibly proud of her brother for being so talented. So she didn't have to sell skewers to pay for his school fees. After finishing his task, Kaida came back to flatter Xiaoming, saying, Big brother, do you think I did well? It's okay, Xiao Ming replied coldly. Then he went home with Xiao Yu, reminding Kaide to take him to the Tianshu Arena this weekend. Kaide bowed respectfully, confident that he had gained the recognition of the elder brother. That evening, at the Qin family's house, Qin Jing, Qin Ying's father, was asking her about her lesson on strange beasts that day. Worried she might have been scared, Qin Ying tried to act like she was fine and said, "Of course not, you're underestimating me." She didn't want to tell him about the escaped hyena, or else she'd be stuck listening to her father's lectures late into the night. Qin Ying thought that the low-level strange beasts were nothing compared to the ones her father had taken her to see at the Tianshu Arena, so she wasn't scared. Qin Jing praised his daughter with satisfaction. Seeing that it was getting late, Qin Ying used the excuse of needing to go to the Apothecary Society to continue her studies. After she left, Qin Zheng's expression changed, and he called for his subordinate, Qin Yi, to investigate the hyena's escape. According to Qin Yi's investigation, someone had injected the beast with frenzy-inducing drugs. Frenzy drugs? Who dares do such a thing? Qin Zheng's face darkened with anger. However, Qin Yi was still searching for clues, and the person who secretly attacked the beast had deliberately left traces behind, seemingly intending to send a threat to him. Qin Jing slammed his fist on the table, furious. Who would dare threaten him like this? He ordered an investigation into the origin of the drugs. No matter who it was, anyone who dared to harm his beloved daughter would have to pay the price. Qin Yi left, obeying the order like a shadow. Qin Jing fell into deep thought. The frenzy drugs reminded him of the Tianshu Arena. The next day, at the Tianshu Arena, a battle between a martial artist and a one-horned demon tiger was taking place. In the form of a wager, Xiao Ming was surprised by how crowded it was. Kaide explained that since it was the weekend, the place was busier than usual. But the people coming here were not ordinary. 300 years ago, strange beasts were humanity's mortal enemies, with battles happening at every encounter. But now, people treated them as a form of entertainment. Xiao Ming wasn't sure whether this was progress or regression. The one-horned demon tiger charged fiercely, its claws shattering the fighter's shield, sending him flying into the wall before falling unconscious. Kaide was furious over his loss. 100 silver coins weren't cheap. Xiao Ming, curious, asked if there were any limits on participants, but there were none. Anyone who wanted to join could enter the arena. Excited, Xiao Ming decided to jump into the arena and try his luck. If he defeated the one-horned demon tiger, his blood energy would surely increase significantly. He told Kaide to bet 10,000 silver coins on his victory. Before Kaide could respond, Xiao Ming had already jumped into the arena. "Hey, big brother, don't! You're a precious apothecary. You can't fight against these strange beasts." Meanwhile, in the VIP room, Qin Ying had also lost a bet, 1,000 silver coins. Though her family was rich, the feeling of bad luck was still irritating. Qin Jing comforted his daughter by giving her 100 gold coins to play with, telling her their family didn't lack money, only poverty. "Thank you, father," Qin Ying said happily as she accepted the money. Originally, Qin Jing had come to observe the situation. But when his daughter insisted on coming along, he had to postpone his plans for another time. He always put his daughter first. Suddenly, he asked about Xiao Ming, noticing she had been spending a lot of time with him recently and growing curious. Qin Ying flinched and quickly explained that Xiao Ming had helped her out last time, so she decided to play with him. "Haha, of course, you should thank him for helping you, but I've heard Xiao Ming only has 10 blood energy. It must be very difficult for him to become a martial artist," Qin Jing said carefully. Knowing his daughter was in her adolescent years, he wanted to approach the subject gently, as being too strict would only have the opposite effect. "What a thoughtful father," Qin Jing then mentioned that their family owned a factory in the southern part of the city and wanted to offer Xiao Ming a position as a team leader, ensuring he would have a comfortable life in this world. The strong devoured the weak. If someone wasn't a martial artist, they wouldn't accomplish anything significant in life, and some people would only remain as memories. Qin Jing gently patted his daughter's head and said, "I only want what's best for you." At that moment, a stir went up in the stands as news spread that the one-horned demon tiger had been defeated, and by a student, no less. In fact, He was a newcomer to the arena. It was hard to believe. Thanks to his victory over the one-horned demon tiger, Xiaoming gained 10 blood energy. It was even better than he expected, and with over 100 blood energy now, he was finally able to become a martial artist. Qining immediately recognized Xiaoming and happily pointed him out to her father. Qingjing was stunned when he learned that Xiaoming had defeated the one-horned demon tiger. The one-horned demon tiger was a rank 1 soldier-level strange beast, and Xiaoming's ability to defeat it showed that he possessed the strength of a martial artist. Qingjing considered this both partly true and partly false. He still wanted to stand firm, claiming that the one-horned demon tiger was only a rank 1 soldier-level beast. And after so many battles, it likely had lost much of its strength, which was why Xiaoming was able to defeat it. Qining wasn't convinced and felt upset hearing her crush's abilities being downplayed by her father. She believed in Xiaoming's talent, but Qingjing questioned how Xiaoming, who had only 10 blood energy earlier, could defeat a rank 1 soldier-level strange beast so easily. He suspected that Xiaoming's victory was somehow underhanded, as he didn't trust anyone. However, Qining remained certain that Xiaoming was incredibly powerful. When a girl falls for someone, even the sharpest eyes can become blind. Down in the arena, Xiaoming wasn't satisfied yet. He wondered if there were any other strange beasts to challenge. Nothing more impressive to hone his skills on. In the VIP room, an elderly, overweight man was eating rare beef. A secretary leaned in and whispered to him, "Sir Thean, a newcomer has arrived and defeated the one-horned demon tiger. He still wants to continue fighting. My subordinates believe he may be here to test his strength." Thean wiped his mouth and responded with a brief "oh," then asked about the person who had caused trouble in the arena previously. That person had been torn apart by a strange beast and had been buried long ago. Thean shook his glass, then ordered the secretary to prepare things quickly, saying it had been a long time since he had smelled fresh blood in the stands. Kaido was fulfilling his duty as a die-hard fan, praising Xiaoming. "Big brother, you're the best. Just a few punches and you sent that demon packing. You're truly my big brother." "Give it here," Xiaoming said coldly, which left Kaido confused. Didn't Xiaoming ask him to bet 10,000 silver coins on his win? Kaido turned pale, realizing his mistake. "Oh no, I've been so focused on you that I forgot about the bet." Xiaoming cracked his knuckles, frustrated. He had fought hard but hadn't earned any money. He muttered to himself that Kaido was useless. Kaido hurried to buy more silver coins, placing another 20,000 silver coins on Xiaoming, convinced that with his strength, Xiaoming would win again. Sweat ran down Kaido's face as he nervously made the bet. The aura of confidence around Xiaoming was intimidating, and with just a glance, Kaido felt like he might need a diaper. At that moment, a rank 2 soldier-level strange beast, the two-tailed lycanthrope, was sent into the arena to fight. Qingjing didn't expect Xiaoming to challenge it, thinking he was looking for trouble. It seemed like Xiaoming was eager to meet his end, but Qining, full of confidence in Xiaoming, replied with enthusiasm, "Dad, Xiaoming won again." Qingjing tried to justify it, claiming that the two-tailed lycanthrope had been imprisoned for too long, which weakened its combat abilities. He still didn't accept Xiaoming as a potential son-in-law. The next challenge was a three-horned bull, the three-eyed fighting bull. Qingjing couldn't understand what Xiaoming was trying to prove. The three-eyed fighting bull was a rank 3 soldier-level strange beast with enough power to knock over an armored war chariot. Qining shot a sidelong glance at her father and said, "Dad, earlier you thought Xiaoming was finished, but what happened?" Qingjing was certain that his eyes couldn't be mistaken twice. But after this fight, it seemed he needed to adjust his glasses. Xiaoming effortlessly took down the three-eyed fighting bull with a single blow, one punch that sends the three-eyed fighting bull flying. "Are you kidding me?" Qingjing lost his composure. The father and daughter's reactions were starkly different. Qining couldn't hold back her laughter. "Dad, do you still have something to say?" Qingjing was speechless. Luckily for him, something came to his rescue. The next opponent was a rank 6 soldier-level strange beast, the iron-clawed crystal bear, and Qingjing didn't understand why the arena had sent such a powerful beast into the ring. At this moment, Qining turned to her father for help. Despite being a seasoned warrior, she knew better than to risk her life against a rank 6 soldier-level beast. Especially when Xiaoming was still a newcomer to this world. After some hesitation, Qin Jing agreed. After all, Xiaoming had saved his daughter's life before. He couldn't be as useless as the rumors suggested, and perhaps he had some kind of hidden talent. Maybe he could win Xiaoming's favor. Qin Jing quickly instructed someone to speak with Thian, asking him to stop the match. As the person in the arena was his subordinate, the secretary relayed this message to Thian. But he didn't seem to like Qin Jing very much. He dares to give orders in my arena? It seems the wild hyena incident last time wasn't enough of a warning. Bring out the rank 6 beast, the wandering sage cuckoo from the 13th level of the beast prison. Of course, Thian refused Qin Jing's request. The secretary explained that it was against the rules to interrupt a match. Especially with so many spectators watching, it would cause trouble if word got out. Qin Jing sighed, realizing there was little he could do now, except to rely on Xiaoming's abilities. However, Thian also sent a message to Qin Jing. If you still disagree with my request, then next time, it won't be just a wild hyena you'll have to deal with. Qin Jing felt as though lightning had struck. It seemed that the incident at the school had been caused by the fat man, Edward, the second young master of the arena. From now on, Edward would be his bitter enemy. Qin Jing noticed her father's grim expression and anxiously asked if he was feeling all right. Qin Jing replied that he was just a little tired and wanted to head home after watching this match. In his heart, however, he was already planning to increase the security for his daughter once they returned home. He absolutely couldn't let his daughter fall into danger again. Meanwhile, Kaido was making another bet on Xiaoming. This time, he went all in, betting 10,000 silver coins, so much so that people around him were trying to stop him. Don't be so reckless, buddy. A gamble like this is asking for disaster, not reward. They warned him. He was told to know when to stop pushing his luck. After all, Xiaoming's odds were 1 in 100, and it could all end in tears. When people saw Kaido betting on Xiaoming, they mocked him. Is he out of his mind? Anyone can tell that kid's going to lose sooner or later. The iron-clawed crystal bear was wearing armor, and its strength was formidable. It could go toe-to-toe with Xiaoming as if it were fighting another warrior. Xiaoming had several bruises now from the battle, and facing the crystal bear without proper gear made things all the more difficult. Having become a true warrior, Xiaoming still hadn't used his special skills. Now, he was going to test himself against the iron-clawed crystal bear and see if his abilities had dulled over the centuries. Xiaoming reached out with his hand, drawing a sword from a distance. The audience saw he knew how to use a weapon, but it seemed it was already too late. If he won a few more matches, he would have to leave the arena. If he angered the arena, the consequences would be dire. Qin Jing told Qin Jing that they should leave, as Xiaoming would most likely lose this match. If he were lucky, he might survive, but from then on, he would likely be disabled. Qin Jing refused to leave. She wanted to rush down and save her crush. Qin Jing stopped her, chiding her that after raising her for 18 years, he had forgotten to teach her not to risk her life for a man. On the arena floor, the iron-clawed crystal bear leaped high into the air, covering the sun with its massive form. The crowd cheered, "Kill him!" Kaido was sweating bullets. He had bet everything on Xiaoming. If Xiaoming lost, they'd all be in big trouble. Qin Jing was in tears, unable to bear the thought of losing Xiaoming. Qin Jing quickly covered her eyes, not wanting her to witness the brutal scene. He was a thoughtful father, keeping his daughter from seeing the bloodshed as Xiaoming cut the iron-clawed crystal bear in half with his thunder saber slash. The crowd in the arena was stunned, rubbing their eyes in disbelief. One strike. Just like that. Was this some kind of illusion? "Mom, I want to marry him." This was the most common line from the girls in the audience at that moment, expressing their admiration for Xiaoming's incredible feat. Qin Jing, still caught up in the excitement of Xiaoming's victory, pulled her father's hand off her eyes and was elated to see that he was unharmed. However, she was perplexed as to why the iron-clawed crystal bear had collapsed. She wondered if someone had helped Xiaoming. Qin Jing, although reluctant to admit it, had to acknowledge the truth. No one helped. Xiaoming defeated the iron-clawed crystal bear on his own. Despite his reservations, he couldn't deny Xiaoming's strength. The victory had earned Xiaoming over 100 qi. bringing his total to 233, a huge boost for him. Kaida was in high spirits, having placed a huge bet on Xiao Ming. We're rich now. 10 million silver coins. We hit the jackpot, he exclaimed, celebrating with his subordinates. The joy was so contagious that he barely recognized his own acquaintances in the chaos. Xiao Ming, feeling a bit overwhelmed, refrained from mingling too closely with them. With the money, he could improve his life and take care of Xiao Yu, who wouldn't need to work as hard anymore. Meanwhile, in the lobby of the arena, Kaida, acting nonchalant, asked as if it were a casual question. What did you say? I'm the only one who won the bet? It's embarrassing, but hey, they should have trusted my man, Xiao Ming. His group chuckled along, even as Xiao Ming tried to keep his distance from them. He had earned a lot of money this time. Enough to improve his life, and he could finally give Xiao Yu a break from her exhausting work. Just then, Qi Ning rushed towards him, brushing her hair to look as lovely as possible. I saw you fight up there earlier, Xiao Ming. You were amazing, she exclaimed with admiration. Xiao Ming smiled politely. Thanks, he responded, but soon noticed she fell silent. Unsure of why she stopped talking, it dawned on him. She was probably shy. After all, she was just a young girl expressing her admiration for him. From a distance, Qin Jing, seeing the interaction, urged his daughter to hurry back. Don't stand there any longer, or you'll embarrass him even more, he called out, half joking but also half serious. Qi Ning, summoning all her courage, invited Xiao Ming to her birthday party, which was coming up. It's next month. I'd love for you to come if you're free, she said, blushing slightly. Xiao Ming, unsure of his schedule, replied, I'm not sure, but if nothing important comes up, I'll try to make it. Qi Ning, overjoyed at his response, waved goodbye with a beaming smile and even skipped a little as she walked away, her excitement evident. Xiao Ming, watching her leave, couldn't help but wonder, does she like me? He thought, a little puzzled by the exchange but secretly flattered. Suddenly, a white-eyed green frog jumped out in front of Qi Ning. She was curious about where it had come from and thought it was quite cute. Xiao Ming sensed danger and immediately pulled Qi Ning back. The frog croaked, and a blinding light emitted from it. In just 1 second, both of them and the frog disappeared. Qin Jing panicked when his daughter was displaced. While Kaida got the money but couldn't find Xiao Ming, the loudspeaker then issued an emergency announcement. Traveling Frog had escaped from the beast's prison and could teleport randomly over hundreds of thousands of miles, with an 80% chance of landing in a highly dangerous place outside the city. In a twilight forest, Xiao Ming and Qi Ning landed painfully. He grabbed Traveling Frog and scolded. Damn it, where did you teleport us to? Just then, a growl was heard, and a pack of Tunoyet wolves slowly approached them. This species usually attacks in packs, so it seemed they were in big trouble, in a mysterious forest full of bloodthirsty wild wolves. With no teammates capable of fighting, it seemed only the main character could save them. Xiao Ming held a stone tightly in his hand, signaling to Qi Ning to run in the opposite direction. After 3 seconds, in a moment, he would be fighting and couldn't protect her. However, Qi Ning remained seated and didn't respond, making him anxious. The pack of wolves had already started attacking, and now he had no choice but to fight for their lives. Xiao Ming struck each wolf with the stone, one by one. Strangely, this pack of Little Moon Wolf wasn't as strong as he had imagined. Only then did Qi Ning speak to him. Xiao Ming, trying to appear confident, reassured her, saying there was no need to worry. They're just a pack of weak wolves as fragile as snails, and I've easily taken care of them, he said. Actually, I think you might have misunderstood. Qi Ning chuckled. The Little Moon Wolf's target wasn't them. It was the wolf pups cradled in her arms. Xiao Ming was stunned. Wait, these wolves give birth to live young instead of laying eggs? Earlier, Qi Ning had come across research materials about Little Moon Wolf in school, so she understood their behavior. Coincidentally, the place they had shifted to was the den of the Little Moon Wolf, and the wolves thought they were intruders, worrying about their pups. Returning the young wolves would resolve the situation. So that's the case, Xiao Ming remarked. But deep down, he still believed that magical beasts were enemies of humanity. If he acted now while they were off guard, he could take them all down in 10 seconds. Different species could never coexist. For humans, The only good magical beast was a dead one. Look, Xiao Ming! This little wolf is so adorable, you should try holding it too, Qi Ning said, quickly bonding with the wolves. But Xiao Ming wasn't so eager, she directly placed the pup into his arms, making him let out a muffled protest. As he looked at the fluffy, soft bundle in his hands, his heart softened. Maybe it was kind of cute, just a little, but definitely not as cute as him. The magical beasts had their own emotions, even familial bonds, which were no different from those of humans. This realization left Xiao Ming conflicted. Did he really have to kill them? One of the wolves brought them a freshly caught rabbit. Qi Ning explained that since they had returned the wolf pups, the wolves were expressing their gratitude. Xiao Ming hesitated, picking up the rabbit carcass. Gratitude from magical beasts? Had they evolved this much in the past 300 years? At that moment, Xiao Ming noticed a sound, a hunter aiming a gun in their direction. Watch out! He shouted. Just when he thought they had been hit, the wolf from earlier leapt out and shielded them, taking the bullet instead. It collapsed, bleeding heavily. Qi Ning, overcome with emotion, was frozen in shock. Fortunately, Xiao Ming pulled her down just in time as a hail of bullets rained down on them. The hunters shouted to avoid harming the wolf pups since they were highly valuable. They only targeted the adult wolves. The wolves charged forward in defense, but the hunters mercilessly struck them down. In the end, only the wolf pups were left. Orphaned and alone, the hunters collected the wolf corpses, selling the pups and skinning the adults. Those scumbags! Qi Ning, furious, wanted to charge at them, but Xiao Ming held her back. She protested angrily. Don't you see what they're doing? Xiao Ming had seen it all. But to him, humanity and magical beasts were natural enemies. The hunters weren't entirely in the wrong, however. Qi Ning felt differently. The wolves had been nothing but friendly toward them. Even so, to Xiao Ming, magical beasts were magical beasts, and humans were humans. Their priority now was to return to the city. Following the hunters was their best chance of getting back. 300 years ago, humanity had only survived the magical beast's savage rampage by uniting against them. To Xiao Ming, humans would always come first. The leader of the hunting group had spotted Xiao Ming and Qi Ning earlier and was preparing to search for them when the pair stepped out of hiding. Xiao Ming introduced them as students from the martial arts academy who had gotten lost. However, to the leader, in a wilderness like this, one of them could serve as a tool for venting frustrations, and the other for making money. Returning home was out of the question. He ordered his men to capture them alive. The hunters, sizing up the duo, found Xiao Ming even more appealing than Qi Ning. Living in the wilderness had seemingly turned them as savage as beasts. I'd advise you not to mess with me, Xiao Ming said coldly. Despite valuing humanity above all, once humans became enemies, he would show no mercy. Shut your damn mouth. One hunter snapped, swinging his rifle but at Xiao Ming. With ease, Xiao Ming blocked the attack with one hand and retaliated with a punch that sent the man flying 3 meters away. They saw Xiao Ming as a tool, so he decided to treat them as entertainment. Now he felt more at ease, curling his finger to taunt them. Come on, what are you waiting for? Damn it! Get him! Kill that pretty boy! The leader barked. His men unleashed a hail of bullets while 2 others charged with machetes. Xiao Ming smirked. Even after 300 years, guns were no match for his speed. Activating Thunder Flash technique, he transformed into a streak of lightning, striking anyone he touched and leaving them injured. The bald leader stood dumbfounded as Xiao Ming suddenly appeared in front of him. He questioned. You're from the city's magical beast hunting squad. Why are you attacking students from the martial arts academy? The leader sneered. You little brat, still wet behind the ears, dare to question me? Take this, blazing fist! He threw a fiery punch at Xiao Ming, but Xiao Ming caught it effortlessly, twisting the man's shoulder joint 180 degrees. Your actions violate Article 28, Chapter 15 of the Federation Code, Xiao Ming said icily. Under these regulations, I'm authorized to execute you on the spot. Wait, my boss is... The leader's words were cut short as Xiao Ming delivered a sharp kick to his jaw. I don't care who's backing you, nobody can save you now. For those who crossed Xiao Ming, there was only one destination, hell, and he intended to send them there in the most painful way possible. Even as the leader lay defeated, he stubbornly muttered, "The commander won't let you off." "Then tell him to come find me. I'll be waiting," Xiao Ming replied coldly before finishing him off. After dealing with the hunters, Xiao Ming turned to check on Qi Ning. She was tending to the wolf pups and insisted on taking them along, fearing they wouldn't survive if left behind. Xiao Ming agreed. He also wanted to scavenge some useful supplies from the hunter's gear, which should be enough to sustain them for a few days. As he rifled through the belongings of the leader, a pouch of blood crystals fell out. Although Qi Ning was wealthy, she had never seen blood crystals before. They were condensed energy crystals formed from refined life force, capable of boosting a martial artist's vitality when absorbed. Finding such valuable items confirmed that this hunting group was anything but ordinary. After gathering the supplies, Xiao Ming hurriedly led Qi Ning away. The scent of blood would undoubtedly attract other magical beasts. Meanwhile, the commander of the hunters, Yu, was leading a team to locate Squad 3, following their signal. However, upon arriving, they found only corpses. Furious, Yu ordered his subordinates to search for the missing blood crystals. Among the group was Cui Chang, who grumbled, "Uncle Yu, when will we go after the star-patterned deer? Qin Ying's birthday is next month, and I've promised to gift her one." His complaint was cut short as he stumbled upon the gruesome sight of bodies scattered across the grass. The search team confirmed that the blood crystals had been taken. "Sorry, young master," Yu said through gritted teeth, "your deer hunt will have to wait. My priority is recovering the boss's property." At the same time, Xiao Ming and Qi Ning had arrived at a desolate city deep within the forest. Qi Ning, curious, asked why such a place existed here, with skyscrapers even taller than those in Sky Sea City. Xiao Ming explained, "This used to be a bustling commercial hub in the old era. Every day, countless people came here. Back then, there were no magical beasts." Qi Ning, observing their location relative to the forest, pointed out, "If this is in the heart of the forest, shouldn't we head the opposite way to leave?" Xiao Ming shook his head. "We don't know this forest well. Wandering aimlessly is dangerous. It's better to find a map from the old era and plan carefully." He also wanted to avoid running into any reinforcements from the hunting team he had just eliminated. Qi Ning agreed with the plan, suggesting they first find a safe place for the wolf pups before making any further decisions. Suddenly, the growl of a magical beast echoed through the desolate city, sending a shiver down Qi Ying's spine. "What do we do now?" she asked nervously. "Let's check it out," Xiao Ming replied calmly. He reasoned that since they might have to spend the night here, it was best to understand their surroundings. In the ruins of the city, a lizard beast, a soldier-class magical beast, was locked in combat with a lone woman. La Na, Xiao Ming and Qi Ning crouched at a distance, watching the scene unfold. Qi Ning, despite lacking combat strength, whispered, "We should help her." Her instinct to save others made Xiao Ming smirk and tease, "By all means, go ahead, I'll cheer you on from here. 1 against 1? I don't think I can manage that," Qi Ning admitted sheepishly. "Good," Xiao Ming said, his tone firm. "This isn't the city, this is the wilderness. Unnecessary kindness will only get you killed. Besides, that woman doesn't seem to need our help." La Na moved like a blur, charging at the beast with a crude spear in hand. Her agile body dodged the swaying tail of the lizard beast. With precision, she leaped to its blind spot and loosed 3 arrows directly at its weak point, the head. To deliver the final blow, she drove her dagger into its brow chakra, ending its life. "That'll keep me fed for days," La Na muttered as she examined the massive creature. Qi Ning was amazed by La Na's prowess, while Xiao Ming was more thoughtful. Such skill could only come from surviving countless life-and-death battles. Could she be? Suddenly an arrow zipped through the air, landing near them. La Na had spotted their presence. "Who's there? Show yourselves," she demanded. Xiao Ming furrowed his brow. This girl had sharp instincts and extraordinary skills. Seeing Qi Ning volunteering to talk to La Na, he reluctantly stayed back to look after the wolf pups as she requested. It was rare for Qi Ning to take the initiative, and she seemed confident her beauty and friendly smile could easily win over another girl. "Hey, don't be so tense. We're from Sky Sea City," Qi Ning said cheerfully, raising her hand in a gesture of goodwill. "From Sky Sea?" La Na's eyes narrowed, and she instantly raised her bow, pointing an arrow at Qi Ning. "Dangerous." Qi Ning froze, utterly baffled. They were all humans. Why was there such hostility? Seeing her floundering, Xiaoming decided to step in. His gaze turned serious as he analyzed the situation. La Na was likely a member of the Dekai tribe, he explained quietly to Qi Ning. 300 years ago, when magical beasts began their invasion, humanity suffered crushing defeats. To preserve and consolidate strength, the Federation was formed, building 100 fortified cities to house the surviving population. However, not everyone made it into the cities. Those left behind believed they were abandoned and came to view the Federation as enemies. They're the Dekai tribe, struggling to survive in the wilderness under constant threat from magical beasts. Qi Ning, now understanding, whispered back. But magical beasts aren't as much of a threat anymore. Why hasn't the Federation saved them? Xiaoming shook his head. The cities can't accommodate more people, and besides, the Dekai tribe has adapted to life in the wild. That's awful, Qi Ning muttered sympathetically, only for an arrow to land near her feet. Get out of here. La Na snapped. This lizard beast is mine. Xiaoming stepped forward calmly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. We're not interested in the lizard beast. Its blood is toxic, and it's splattered on your face, he said flatly. La Na's eyes flickered with suspicion, her grip on the bow tightening. You think I'd fall for that? My mother taught me never to trust men. Especially men from the Federation. Without hesitation, she launched an attack. Xiaoming sighed, his tone turning icy. So be it then. He prepared to counter her strikes while keeping Qi Ning safe. La Na might have been skilled, but she'd soon learn she had picked the wrong opponent. Xiaoming moved like the wind, effortlessly dodging La Na's arrows. Her attempts barely scratched the surface of his abilities. Seeing her smirk, he narrowed his eyes as she activated entangling vines. Vines sprouted from the ground where her arrows had landed, wrapping tightly around his legs. Be careful, Xiaoming. Qi Ning called out from the sidelines, stating the obvious. La Na lunged with her dagger, ready to strike, yet Xiaoming remained unfazed, calmly counting down under his breath. Before her blade could reach him, La Na collapsed to the ground, foaming at the mouth. Didn't I warn her about the poison? Xiaoming sighed, shaking his head. He crouched to examine her. The toxin from a earth lizard beast isn't fatal, but she'll need treatment soon. Treatment? In this wilderness? Qi Ning's voice was filled with concern. Xiaoming's expression remained calm. Everything in nature has its counter. While the blood of the earth lizard beast is poisonous, its body contains a detoxifying gland. We just need to extract it. Qi Ning was amazed. I've never read anything like this in books. How do you know all this? He shrugged modestly. Just bits and pieces I've picked up along the way. After carefully dissecting the creature, Xiaoming retrieved the detoxifying gland. Next, we need purple windflower petals and foxtail grass to balance the antidote's potency. They scoured the area and gathered the necessary ingredients. As Qi Ning handed them to him, she hesitated. But we can't just give her these raw, they need to be processed first. Xiaoming didn't reply, his focus on creating the antidote. He began manipulating molecular fire energy to refine the components, his precise technique leaving Qi Ning speechless. When the antidote was ready, a shimmering purple liquid, he finally looked up. You were saying something? Qi Ning blinked, flustered. Nothing. Watching him work, she felt dwarfed by his skill. Where did you learn to do that? Xiaoming gave her a vague smile. My family has a few old books on medicine, I just picked it up here and there. It was a flimsy excuse, but Qi Ning let it slide. She knew there was much more to him than he let on. With practiced ease, Xiaoming administered the antidote to La Na. Now, it was only a matter of time before she recovered. A little while later, she slowly opened her eyes, and the faces of two people appeared, making La Na jump in shock. You guys. She didn't finish her sentence before fainting again, which left Tanning confused. Xiaoming pretended to say that if she had fainted again, they should take the lizard away. No, don't even think about taking my lizard! La Na jumped up and bit his arm, not letting go. Xiaoming tried to break free but couldn't. Let go of me, I'm the one who neutralized your poison, he said. La Na immediately jumped down and now felt unusually strong. She instantly changed her attitude toward him. You must be a respected pharmacist, right? Although he didn't like being touched by strange women, The truth was, he was indeed a pharmacist. Tanning took the opportunity to ask her how to get outside since La Na was a local. It was no problem for La Na. But she wanted Xiao Ming to go to her tribe first because her mother was seriously ill. Xiao Ming didn't understand why they needed to go when there was no clear reason. La Na was about to explain when a loud explosion was heard. The leader's men had surrounded them, demanding that Xiao Ming hand over the blood essence, or they would have a more comfortable death. Xiao Ming frowned. He had already died once and knew it wasn't comfortable at all. He kicked the large lizard corpse toward them, and the soldiers immediately fired back. At that moment, Xiao Ming took the opportunity to stand from above and used his bow and arrow. Since they were surrounded, Tan Ying and La Na might have been captured. There were few enemies in front of him, so he decided to leave one alive. 3 arrows took down 3 of them, and the 4th one, who was firing, was also dealt with by Xiao Ming. Now, only the last one remained. He didn't kill him but lightly kicked his groin. That move was quite a low blow. When the lizard's corpse fell, it was also the moment Xiao Ming finished dealing with the situation. He used the leader as a hostage. "Release our boss!" One of the men shouted from the other side. Xiao Ming was not intimidated and responded that if they wanted their leader alive, then his people had to be alive too. "Ridiculous, you only have 1 hostage, while we have 2. The leader smirked. Tanning told him not to worry about them, but La Na wanted him to eliminate all these colonists, since they were really annoying. "You brat, I advise you to surrender obediently," the cunning leader said. Xiao Ming then kicked his calf, making him kneel. Now Xiao Ming gave him 2 choices: release his people, or join the disabled group. "You bastard, how dare you insult me!" he growled, ordering his men to strike at Tanning and La Na's legs. Xiao Ming pressed the knife against his throat and threatened him that if either of them got a bruise on their legs, he could start preparing to take his corpse away. The soldiers hesitated and didn't dare to strike. The leader yelled, "This guy is bluffing. He wouldn't dare gamble the lives of those 2 girls. Try it and see." Xiao Ming replied, never one to joke. If he lost, the 2 women would die. But he could still escape safely. If the leader lost, his life would end right there. Regardless of whether Xiao Ming won or lost, he could still live. If the leader dared to play, Xiao Ming was ready. But the leader feared that once they dropped their guns, Xiao Ming would kill him immediately, which felt unfair. "You're bargaining even though you're in a weak position? Do you want to meet your ancestors right now?" Xiao Ming threatened him. With no other choice, the leader ordered all his soldiers to put their guns down. The soldiers hesitated and looked at each other, making him angry. "I said put the guns down. I'm not ready to die yet." Suddenly, the ground trembled and cracked open, and a giant lizard rose from the earth. It was an alien beast, a 9-star warrior class fire lizard. As it whipped its tail lightly, it sent everyone, including Tanning, flying freely through the air. Xiao Ming had to jump in to save her, and the 2 of them flew past the face of the fire lizard like gods. Although they successfully landed, a huge rock was falling right toward them. At that moment, La Na dashed out like lightning and shattered the rock into 100 pieces. Xiao Ming let go of Tanning and caught her, as it was his duty as a man to protect one woman after another. La Na jumped up and said, "I'm fine, consider it a repayment for saving my life." Meanwhile, the soldiers were continuously firing at the fire lizard, but for a 9-star monster, bullets were useless against its armor. The more they shot, the more they angered it. Sure enough, the fire lizard unleashed a burst of flames over a wide area. Xiao Ming wrapped his arms around the 2 women and jumped out of the fire. It was something they couldn't handle. The only option now was to protect their lives. However, something felt off. The fire lizard was still chasing them. The reason became clear to Xiao Ming. He had used the lizard's detoxification line to cure La Na, and the fire lizard's most powerful aura was concentrated on its body. There was only one possibility: this fire lizard was its child. Tanning shouted, "This isn't good, there's a cliff ahead." Xiao Ming immediately skidded to a halt. At this point, there was only one choice left. One person had to die, or they would all die. La Na was startled. "What do you mean? If you're going to die, die together!" Xiao Ming punched her in the stomach. La Na was furious. Did he intend to use her as a sacrificial offering? Men from the Federation really couldn't be trusted. Xiaoming, what are you doing? Are you really going to sacrifice La Na? Tanning screamed in shock. Xiaoming laughed. The imagination of these girls was really vivid. The detoxification line of the blood lizard had a very strong smell, and now, by applying La Na's blood to his face, the fire lizard's target would shift to him. Xiaoming, no! Tanning cried, but he pushed her away. La Na, take care of Tanning for me, you must survive, he said before jumping off the cliff, with the lizard following him. La Na was stunned. She had just repaid him for saving her life, and now she owed him even more. When would she ever be able to repay it? If Xiaoming fell from this height, he would either die or be left as a vegetable. The only way he could think of was to use the blood kill skill from his past life to save himself. Xiaoming had never used this body to perform such a technique, but he hoped it could withstand it. Pharmacology technique. Xiaoming called out the name of the skill, but his body couldn't perform it. Nevertheless, he didn't want to hit the ground in this condition. If he had known, he wouldn't have played the hero saving the damsel in distress. Xiaoming used the skill again, but it only appeared halfway before vanishing. He screamed, bracing himself for the pain to come. A pair of golden wings appeared. Xiaoming was dazed. It worked, but it wasn't him who did it. The system had sensed his danger and activated the rescue function, reducing his health by half. Though he had been saved, he had lost half his health. The price was steep, moreover. Now he had to face an even greater threat than the bloated lizard. This place was supposed to be an amusement park, but now the fire lizard wasn't something he could handle. It was best to escape into the forest first. The system then presented him with a special mission: defeat the fire lizard and earn 300 points. This was the first time the system offered a reward mission. Even though 300 points was tempting, the danger was too great, so he decided against it. He could later make up for it by killing other monsters. For now, survival was the priority. The system reminded him that if he didn't accept the mission within 3 minutes, it would count as cowardice, and all his health would be deducted. Xiaoming cursed. If his health reached 0, it would be the same as going to the afterlife. He had wanted to be humble and live a quiet life, but the system didn't give him a choice. He decided to discard the option to refuse. Now, to defeat the fire lizard, his only option was to take a neutral position and strike a fatal blow at its weak point. If not, he would have no choice but to sleep forever, as he had no advantage in defense or attack. Xiaoming ran to the lake and used the pharmacology technique to glide across the surface, luring the fire lizard into the water to cool down. The fire lizard splashed around under the water for a while before crawling back out. Its body was extremely tough, and the only way to cause a fatal injury was to drive something straight from its nostrils to its brain. Xiaoming had a sharp iron rod ready in his hand. The opportunity was fleeting, so he prepared himself like an athlete about to throw the javelin. The fire lizard inhaled deeply to unleash fire, but a second later, Xiaoming thrust the rod down through its nostrils, causing it to exhale blood instead of flames. The fire lizard shook its head in irritation. Trying to dislodge the rod, Xiaoming clung to the iron rod, but his body wasn't strong enough to deal significant damage to the creature. The fire lizard tried to slam its head into the ground to crush Xiaoming, but he struggled to force the iron rod deeper into its nostrils, draining his own energy to do so. Eventually, the fire lizard pinned him to the ground. His body was battered from the resistance. But the mission was completed. Xiaoming received the reward of 300 blood points. His heart suddenly tightened in pain because the blood he had gathered exceeded the maximum limit for his blood capacity. The remaining 100 blood points couldn't be absorbed. His body couldn't handle more than 500 blood points. So the system suggested transforming his body. Xiaoming immediately agreed, even though he didn't understand what was happening. A new mission appeared: mark the enemy. After killing it, he could take its flesh and blood to enhance his strength. The stronger the enemy, the greater the improvement. Xiaoming didn't know if it would be easy to grow stronger by killing monsters, but if he wanted to get stronger quickly, he had to choose powerful enemies. However, if he didn't complete the task within 24 hours, the mission would fail, and failure meant certain death for Xiaoming. Xiaoming wanted to curse at the system. It was always using death as punishment for the smallest mistake. This time, he had to think very carefully. However, the pain kept overwhelming him, an indescribable feeling of discomfort. First, he decided to try using his blood energy to activate the acupoints in his body to relieve it. On the ground, the soldiers were holding 4 members of the Dichi tribe captive for sneaking around the military base. The apparent leader ordered the soldiers to lower their guns, stating that if they weren't spies, they could be released. "We're not spies, we're just here to hunt," one of the Dichi men said. The man, named Bai De, seemed very skilled in social interaction. He said he trusted them but insisted they follow the interrogation process, which would take all day. However, if they helped him with one task, they could be released. The 4 Dichi men looked at each other and nodded. "So, what do you want us to do?" Bai De pointed to a mine that was short on labor. If they went down and fetched some ore, they could return. "What about these?" one of the men asked. Raising his bound hands, Bai De immediately ordered the soldiers to untie them. Meanwhile, up in a high tree, a father and daughter detective team noticed that the village hunters had been captured and signaled for the daughter to return to the village to call for reinforcements. Meanwhile, Xiaoming was wandering around, hunting monsters. He had been using dry branches up until now, but he needed a real weapon. Furthermore, to complete the mission, he needed stronger monsters. The system presented him with a map. Though he didn't want to admit it, Xiaoming had to confess that he was lost, especially when it came to the path leading to his heart. A little chick fell on Xiaoming's head. It pointed forward, indicating that there was a strong opponent ahead. "Could it be that the system is just a tiny little chick?" Xiaoming murmured, skeptical, but he followed the bird anyway. At that moment, the 4 Dichi men were descending into a deep mining shaft. Bai De tossed 2 bags to them. "Fill up these 2 bags, it's not hard. If it's not hard, why don't you do it yourself?" one of the men said. Annoyed, another man gestured for them to be quiet. There was the smell of blood in the air. This pit wasn't simple. The surrounding tunnels were pitch dark. The 4 men chose a path to follow. Above them, the soldiers were praising Bai De for his skill, saying that with just a few words, he managed to herd the 4 men like chickens. "Learn from me," Bai De said arrogantly. As they walked, the lead man started to feel something was off. Suddenly, something sprang out and hit his leg, causing him to cry out in pain. The others rushed to him. "What's going on, Kuei-ku? What happened?" From all directions, things started falling down, narrowly missing them. One of the men went to fetch the ore while the other 3 stayed behind to cover him. "Looking for ore? Can't you see?" the long-haired man shouted. "There's no ore here, only monster ore." Xiaoming had been wandering all day but still hadn't found anything. He had reached the military camp and muttered, "Little chick, are you tricking me? Don't call me a chick, I'm not a chick." The little chick angrily flapped its wings against his head. The system notified that a suitable target had appeared 500 meters underground. The mission to guide him here had ended. Xiaoming was really annoyed by the system. At least it could explain what the target was and where it was. The navigation was no different from Google Maps. The little chick huffed in frustration and disappeared. Xiaoming sat alone, pondering. Was the 500 meters referring to the military camp? Could they be breeding a powerful monster there? "Here it comes! Here it comes!" The soldiers above the pit shouted excitedly. Meanwhile, below, the 4 unfortunate men were facing a terrifying monster. Kuei-ku was dragged away. The long-haired man volunteered to save Kuei-ku while the others waited by the cave entrance. But suddenly, the surroundings grew dark. Xiaoming observed from above. Could the underground cave be filled with alien monsters? Were the soldiers using humans as food for them? "Haha, I hear someone's being eaten. How about we bet on how long these guys will last?" A group of soldiers coldly spoke about the death of their comrades. A new soldier questioned why they had to capture people to feed the monsters. Bai De looked at him with a judging gaze. "New guy, do you know the Philosopher's Guild?" The soldier knew that the Philosopher's Guild was a place that gathered materials to make medicine. It's true that even a pharmacist could work there. But the Philosopher's Guild wasn't just that. Bai De's group was part of the guild, engaging in businesses that could earn them a lot of money. For example, blood essence, which was one of their rare and valuable materials. Blood essence is a rare material that occasionally falls from high-level beasts, so how could it be refined? That's right, Baida explained. Blood crystals are extremely rare, which makes them valuable. Knight Fang from the Philosopher's Guild has developed a method to refine them, but the key material needed is human blood. The soldiers laughed at each other, thinking that they could refine a heap of blood crystals. It's not that easy, you also need. Before Baida could finish his sentence, one of his soldiers was shot in the throat by an arrow and fell into the pit. Enemy attack, down! Baida shouted, but 3 other soldiers were also struck by arrows. He ordered his subordinates to counterattack. Raining down bullets without hesitation, from afar, the Dekai tribe had set up a defensive perimeter and were firing arrows with far better accuracy than the barrage of bullets Xiaoming observed from above. His archery skills weren't bad, but taking on the entire military camp by himself wasn't feasible. Baida, seeing that the enemy was just one person, ordered his subordinates to surround him and fire relentlessly at the lone archer. Suddenly, a volley of arrows flew from behind, forcing Baida to abandon his soldiers and retreat inside. Among the reinforcements, Lana appeared, and Xiaoming recognized her. Perhaps this was her tribe, which meant Qining was likely with them too. The soldiers were quickly wrapped in vines and restrained, while the Dekai tribe detonated chemical vials to target the soldiers. Out of a nearby tent, a steel foot emerged. The Dekai tribe stepped back. On guard, Baida was operating a robot. You dead rats, let me show you what a real festival looks like. He fired the cannon, setting a group of Dekai tribe members aflame. Lana used entangling vines, wrapping the robot's arms and legs tightly with vines. During this moment, the others shot arrows at it, but they were ineffective. Baida sat inside the cockpit smugly. Haha, a bunch of backward people trying to fight machines with bows and arrows, just scratching the surface. He controlled the robot's limbs to break the vines off, seemingly preparing for a stronger attack. A rain of bullets fell from a close distance, causing significant casualties for the Dekai tribe. Lana, holding a spear, was determined to crush the robot. Let me handle this. Xiaoming appeared after nearly half of the Dekai tribe had fallen. He wielded Lana's spear and faced off against Baida, who turned his back and fired at him. Xiaoming moved swiftly like a bolt of lightning. Baida began to feel nervous as he realized Xiaoming might actually be a warrior. The leader of the Dekai tribe, unsure of where Xiaoming came from, saw it was the perfect moment, if normal attacks weren't effective. It was time to try something stronger. Breath of the distant wind. He fired an arrow imbued with wind towards Baida. The arrow successfully cracked the bulletproof glass, forcing Baida to change targets. Taking advantage of the moment, Xiaoming rushed forward and used Art of Void Medicine to move through the air. In battle, anyone who wasn't careful could pay the price with their life. Xiaoming pierced through the bulletproof glass and sent Baida off to the afterlife. Before he died, Baida muttered a curse. Damn these backward ants! The robot exploded into hundreds of pieces, providing a dramatic backdrop as Xiaoming emerged coolly. We've won! We've won! The Dekai tribe cheered in joy. Lana ran over to speak with Xiaoming. She had thought he was done for when she saw him jump off the cliff a few days ago. The one who had shot the arrows was Lana's father. He thanked Xiaoming for his help, not only saving him but also rescuing his daughter from the fire lizard. With such a huge debt of gratitude, he said he would repay him with his life. It's nothing, Xiaoming said kindly, casually asking if they knew the location of the underground cave in the military camp. Lana's father pointed to the deep pit. They had come here for the same reason. Some people from their tribe had been taken down there. Xiaoming deduced that this was the entrance to a cave where strange animals were used for food. Since it was dangerous below, he planned to go down. Lana's father stopped him, saying this was a matter for their tribe, and he couldn't let him continue helping. Xiaoming then asked if he had any experience fighting creatures in the dark. But the Dekai tribe exchanged looks and shook their heads. These alien creatures were fierce and strong, so they always fought during the day. It would be foolish to attack at night, especially in the dim, narrow tunnels which were disadvantageous for fighting in large numbers. After hearing this, Xiaoming decided that it was still better for him to go down. The creatures below weren't something to underestimate. La Na's father still refused. But Xiaoming looked at him with a trustworthy gaze and said, "If you're not at ease, then let me borrow a sword." Inside the tunnel, Xiaoming carried a torch. It had been a while since he last wielded a sword, and it reminded him of the time he was in the Sacred Sword Temple. Xiaoming and his two teammates had sworn to fight side by side, but in the end, they were betrayed. Suddenly, a monster appeared, and Xiaoming coldly dealt with it. He needed to become stronger to catch up and take revenge. The monster was a sandworm, which lived in swarms and had poor vision. They thrived on blood and were as powerful as the top soldiers. This strange beast wasn't one of the most powerful. And Xiaoming wasn't sure why the system sent him here. Could there be an even stronger alien beast deeper inside? As Xiaoming made his way down the tunnel, the bodies of sandworms piled up along the way. They were larger than he had expected, and the situation of those who had entered the cave didn't seem good. Xiaoming realized that some of them were still barely alive. He moved a sandworm corpse aside and said, "Hang in there, I'll get you out of here. The people from your tribe are coming to save you." The young man, with his last breath, pointed inside and said that there was an iron gate, hoping that his tribe would take revenge for him. Then he fell into a state of death. Xiaoming gently laid him down, grabbed his sword, and emanated an intimidating aura of killing intent. He walked toward the iron gate, where a guard used binoculars to ask for a password. "Want your life?" Xiaoming gritted his teeth and replied, "WTF, this crazy bastard is about to be eaten by sandworms and still acting all arrogant." The guard scoffed, then slammed the door shut. Furious, Xiaoming kicked the door. He had given the password, and since they wouldn't let him in, he would break it down. Xiaoming kicked repeatedly, causing the guard inside to grumble. "This is so annoying! One kick can't break down a thick iron door like this." No sooner had he spoken than the door collapsed, and Xiaoming confidently stepped in. He had given them a chance, but they made him angry. Inside, there was a long corridor, and the system notification appeared, indicating the presence of a suitable target ahead. Xiaoming frowned. It seemed that the target for the alien beasts was inside as well. Xiaoming walked past a pile of machines used to breed sandworms, entering a space where there was no sign of life or even the scent of alien beasts. "I told you not to disturb me while I'm conducting experiments. Why didn't you listen?" A figure wearing a raven mask suddenly appeared behind him. Launching an attack that caught Xiaoming off guard, he stepped back, his arm injured, unable to even sense the presence of this person. This individual was no ordinary foe. Though his hand had withdrawn, the afterimage of his sword remained on Xiaoming's arm. Something was strange about this. The system suddenly alerted him to the target's presence. Night Raven Warrior, Level 2, Alchemist, Blood Chi, 1000. Xiaoming was taken aback. The mission target was a person, not a beast. This was beyond the script. "You're not one of my subordinates. Why are you here?" The Raven Warrior tilted his head, speaking to Xiaoming. With blood from the sandworm still on his sword, Xiaoming replied, "I came in with my own legs and hands, of course." The Raven Warrior trembled with rage. "Did you kill all my insect treasures?" he yelled, clutching his head as if he had lost everything. "My insect treasures, my blood crystals! Do you know how many people I had to use to raise them? You fool, wasting everything!" Xiaoming had never met anyone so powerful and insane. What was even stranger was that he could sense the presence of a strange beast-like aura from this person. Was he really the mission target? "I don't like pure killing because it wastes resources, but you've pissed me off. Not only did you waste the results of many people's labor, but you also wasted my blood crystals!" The Raven Warrior roared, summoning something. Suddenly, Xiaoming felt all his sensory abilities, his vision, hearing, and even his sense of presence, were completely severed. The hardest part of fighting high-level warriors was dealing with their skills, and right now, Xiaoming's senses felt like they had vanished entirely in front of the Raven Warrior. The Raven Warrior had stripped away all physical and auditory presence, moving like a shadow. Even when Xiaoming swung his sword, he couldn't touch him. Xiaoming had already taken 2 stabs. When he took 12, he would be freed. The dagger's shadow was incredibly strange, and Xiaoming couldn't afford to let him land another strike. He needed to calm down and not get flustered. The system offered a helpful hint. When the opponent was marked, he would be locked in his sight. Xiao Ming was frustrated. Why didn't the system mention this earlier? It seemed like they were just trying to make things harder for him. The system also kindly reminded him that if he didn't win within 24 hours, he would be done for. While reading the system's message, the Raven warrior seized the opportunity to stab Xiao Ming in the chest again. Xiao Ming made up his mind. Either the Raven warrior would die, or he would, he shouted. Mark him! Hoping for a result, a badge flew out and attached to the Raven warrior's back. He didn't understand what had just happened, but suddenly his spine went cold. He continued attacking, aiming to slice Xiao Ming into pieces and feed his offspring. As the dagger neared, Xiao Ming managed to dodge and counterattack, catching the Raven warrior off guard. Though Xiao Ming landed a strike, the Raven warrior teleported to another spot, taking a break to talk. How did you know I was there? He asked. A coward who only knows how to hide in the shadows and stab from behind. I've met plenty of scum like you. Xiao Ming replied with arrogance. The Raven warrior scratched his beak and mumbled. Interesting. A level 1 warrior who isn't afraid when facing me. You are truly a valuable specimen. He then begged Xiao Ming for 5 minutes to think, and after a few seconds, he snapped his fingers. I have an idea. If you bow to me 3 times and accept me as your master, I won't kill you. Moreover, you'll have the chance to get rich with me. Sound good? Xiao Ming couldn't help but laugh at his ridiculous posture. If he actually knelt 3 times, Xiao Ming would let him die happily. Haha, this is truly interesting. Xiao Ming mocked. The Raven warrior shook his head, his whole body emanating murderous intent. He had never played with prey that wasn't afraid of him, so he would make sure to drag things out and not kill him quickly. You'd better endure, he warned. He bent down as if about to fly. Let me see if you're tasty. The Raven warrior shot forward like an arrow, forcing Xiao Ming to stumble back. Luckily, he avoided the blow. The two continued to clash with swords. The Raven warrior could see Xiao Ming's incredible swordsmanship, his speed, and strength that matched his own. But what struck him even more was that Xiao Ming seemed to have years of experience, enabling him to predict every move the Raven warrior made. He couldn't believe that a level 1 warrior had such skills. Xiao Ming was stronger than him, taking advantage of the Raven warriors. Distracted thinking, Xiao Ming spotted an opening. With a swift move, he flipped his sword and cleaved the Raven warrior's body in 2. However, it only managed to sever a few strands of fur on his coat. He immediately stepped back, clutching his face, as his mask shattered in half, revealing the eye of the person underneath. For some reason, he felt an immense pressure emanating from Xiao Ming. Could it be that Xiao Ming had some kind of special skill that affected his psyche? He had never known fear before. What's the matter? Scared now? Xiao Ming slowly advanced toward him. The black crow froze, sweat pouring down his body. Was he really going to lose to someone of such a low rank, someone barely above trash? Seeing Xiao Ming's attack, he panicked and shouted, Unbelievable! This is impossible! He hurled something toward Xiao Ming. And as soon as Xiao Ming struck it, it exploded right in front of him. The blinding light forced him to shield his eyes. Taking this opportunity, the black crow planted another knife into Xiao Ming's remaining side. He glided through the air with a smug grin. Mwahaha, your skills aren't bad, but compared to me, they're nothing. That's more than enough to bring you down. Xiao Ming retorted to his taunt. Suddenly, the black crow's body ignited in flames. Did you know? The sound of a crow's caw is the tolling bell of death, he said mockingly. Xiao Ming had never seen such a strange blood barrier before, yet, life or death, he had to fight. He lunged forward but couldn't pierce through the armor. Worse still, his sword became entangled in the barrier. This blood shield wasn't just highly defensive, it even trapped his weapon. Taking advantage of this, the flaming black crow launched another attack. Xiao Ming had to think of a solution, but first, he needed to block this incoming strike. Xiao Ming attempted to detonate his blood energy through his sword, but it was unsuccessful. The fiery crow laughed triumphantly. Useless, isn't it? Even if you use your ultimate sword technique, you can't break through the armor of bone and blood wrapped around my body. He licked his bloodthirsty dagger and sneered. 6 more strikes, and you'll join your ancestors. The black specks left by his dagger's afterimages seemed to be absorbing Xiao Ming's blood energy and strength. From what the crow said, the 12th strike would spell Xiao Ming's end, but the crow was so confident in his armor that he hadn't bothered to block any of Xiao Ming's attacks. That left only one option. Cutting straight through the armor would secure victory. In his past life, Xiao Ming had swung his sword countless times under the blazing sun to achieve the state of a master in micro-swordsmanship. When he wielded the sword, he could no longer feel its weight in his hands over time. As he faced the sunlight, the fastest thing in the world, he had aimed to sever it. Of course, he initially failed, but one day, Xiao Ming managed to slice a ray of sunlight into 8 fragments. Now, just like then, Xiao Ming precisely cut through the protective armor that the Black Crow had been so proud of. The armor shattered completely, and his mask fell away, revealing the face of a deranged scientist. Despite Xiao Ming's formidable combat ability, even with his light slicing skill, he couldn't finish him off in one strike. How can you possess such a powerful sword technique? The Black Crow asked, a question he himself could not answer. The system suddenly notified Xiao Ming. The target is nearing death. Do you wish to absorb him? Xiao Ming was puzzled. Was the system suggesting cannibalism? How could I lose to someone as lowly as you? The Black Crow still refused to accept the truth. Xiao Ming only wanted to know why he used humans as food for monsters. After all, these people had done nothing to provoke him. The Black Crow smirked. They're not my enemies, but to me, they hold no value. That's why I turned those useless people into useful materials for my blood crystals. It's the greatest achievement of a scientist like me. You have no right to determine the value of others. Xiao Ming replied angrily. To him, the crow was nothing more than someone who exploited human lives to satisfy his selfish desires. There was nothing noble or praiseworthy about that. The Black Crow retorted that the strong have the right to command the weak. Since Xiao Ming had defeated him, he should kill him. As even Xiao Ming lived by the law of the jungle, the crow recounted how a monster had once attacked him, taking half of his face. That experience taught him that being born weak was a sin. The weak could never overcome the strong. They would only be trampled upon and manipulated as the strong saw fit. In this world, victory crowns the strong and condemns the weak. The strong grows stronger by stepping on the weak, he declared. But Xiao Ming did not intend to kill him. Because of his defeat, he would kill him because the crow embodied pure evil. Oh, playing the righteous avenger now? The crow mocked. Tell me, what right do you have to judge my crimes? Surely you've committed similar atrocities in the past. Before he could say more, Xiao Ming silenced him for good, sending him to the earth below to claim his reward. First, the breakthrough reward, the skill arm of vengeance, an attack that pierces through opponents like a giant hand, demolishing all forms of enemy defense and dealing massive damage of up to 40%. Next was a nurturing reward for refining blood crystals, used for support by utilizing blood energy to forge them. This skill was acquired by absorbing the Black Crow. Could he really create blood crystals so effortlessly now? If so, he was about to strike it rich. Xiao Ming had never worried about money before because Xiao Yu had always managed it. But now things were different. The system brought exciting news. The blood energy shop had been unlocked. By spending blood energy, he could obtain special equipment. For instance, a spirit shield costing 500 blood energy could block one attack from an S-class warrior or anything weaker. Another option was weapon enhancement. For 100 blood energy, he could upgrade his weapon to a whole new level. Though called a shop, it only had 2 items. This system was truly hopeless. That shield seemed like a blatant scam designed to drain his blood energy. However, the weapon upgrade sounded useful. Xiao Ming picked up the Black Crow's dagger, Blade of Vengeance, an exclusive weapon capable of delivering a critical strike after 20 consecutive attacks on the same opponent. Its special effect was decent, but as a cursed weapon, it wasn't something he would use often. Among the things recorded here were experiment notes and some encrypted codes. For now, he decided to keep them. Above ground, the Dekai tribe had finished gathering the bodies of those who had perished. Everyone was weeping in anguish. Xiao Ming felt a pang of guilt. If he had arrived earlier, he might have saved at least one life. The moment he descended was also the moment one of them breathed their last. The village chief placed a hand on Xiao Ming's shoulder. You've avenged them all. That's more than enough, your help will always be remembered by the Dekai people. He then ordered the others to collect anything useful and blow up the pit, ensuring everything there was destroyed. Once the task was done, everyone prepared to leave. La Na walked behind Xiao Ming, feeling something she couldn't quite explain. He seemed taller than before, his clothes were in tatters, but his body bore no visible wounds, revealing his sculpted six-pack abs. The village chief glanced at his young daughter and sighed. This was clearly the sign of a girl falling in love, acting swiftly. He stripped one of the men nearby to provide clothes for Xiao Ming. His goal was to cover up that chiseled body before his daughter did something rash in broad daylight. Xiao Ming put on the borrowed clothes, which fit him perfectly. Meanwhile, the unfortunate man whose clothes were taken had to settle for a tattered piece of cloth that the kind-hearted chief tossed his way. Xiao Ming reminded them to stay cautious, as there were likely other camps nearby, meaning this place was no longer safe. The village chief agreed, stating that once they returned to the village, he would begin searching for a new place to live. As the chief led the group back, the villagers eagerly ran out to greet the returning hunting party. Qi Ning lit up with joy upon seeing Xiao Ming return. She dashed forward, intending to throw her arms around him in an enthusiastic hug, but Xiao Ming stopped her, saying, "Please compose yourself." "Sorry, I got too excited," Qi Ning said awkwardly. Xiao Ming patted her head reassuringly. "I'm fine. Now, we can finally go home. Are you two a couple or something?" La Na asked with a sly smirk. Glancing between them, Qi Ning froze, flustered. She liked the idea of being paired with her crush, but she was too shy to admit it. "No, we're just classmates," Xiao Ming replied firmly, causing Qi Ning to feel as if her heart had shattered into pieces. That evening, La Na took Xiao Ming to see her mother, an elderly woman bedridden with illness. Xiao Ming noticed black streaks on her face, marks that only appeared on those bitten by the Aramamba black serpent. La Na sighed, explaining that they had tried many methods to remove the toxins from her body and keep her alive, but the residual venom caused her chronic pain. Xiao Ming knew how to treat her, but the required ingredients were far from ordinary. Later that night, he and La Na set out to gather the necessary materials. The two of them crept up to a massive king crab that was sound asleep. La Na couldn't believe her eyes. "You mean this is what you need? Its shell is so tough that only a continuous cannon barrage could crack it." "Sit tight and watch," Xiao Ming said confidently as he stepped forward. He activated his new skill, Arm of Vengeance. A gigantic hand, even larger than the crab, materialized and startled the creature awake. Before it could react, Xiao Ming clenched the hand tightly, crushing the crab in an instant. La Na clasped her head in disbelief. Unbelievable. Xiao Ming took a small piece of the crab's meat as his prize. "This is enough to make medicine for your mother," he said with a smirk, "quick and effective."